The best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets, casket, and top.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DFS Army Bold Call Waiver Wire podcast, where we focus on your season-long leagues, taking a break from DFS before we ramp up this week, giving you all the good tips. I am Alan Seslowsky. Follow me at Alan Seslowsky on Twitter. Here with our El Presidente, the real El Presidente.
No.
The secondary El Presidente. Anyway, our chief executive officer, our fearless leader. Hey, what's up, Geek? It's good to be back here talking football with you again.
What's up, my man? It's good to be back on the bold call. Making bold calls.
It's been a few weeks. I think it's been like 3 weeks since you've been on. We've had some special guests going over the season-long stuff. Done a couple of solo.
I want to talk about a preseason bold call before we get into anything else.
Sure.
Where you were wrong. And when you're right, you're right. And when you're wrong. And we have to accept all of these things. So in the preseason, you told me that Dak Prescott could wind up as the QB1 overall this season.
It was headed that way, wasn't it?
It looked good for a minute, but I mean, bro, he's definitely not going to end up there. So you got to be able to determine who's going to get hurt in these calls.
Yeah, I mean, how I didn't foresee his ankle getting twisted around like the Exorcist's head is beyond me. I mean, that is just, who wouldn't have seen that?
It's a big miss.
Yes.
It's a big miss.
Hey, how you doing in your main season-long league? Are you still in it? Are you at least 4-3? Are you 5-2? Or are you trying to fight out of a hole at 3-4 or worse?
I have a couple of things going on. To say a main league is difficult, but in my dynasty league, which I consider my most important, the one that I've been in the longest, my team is now so much better than the rest of the dynasty that it's actually become embarrassing for everybody else to play me. I just played the other team that was 6-0, and I destroyed them like 140 to like 63. His players were so scared that they didn't even show up. Like, this was a guy who was doing well. He was number 2 in the league. His players said, you know what? We're going up against Kevin. Let's just take this week off. Okay? No point in scoring. Let's just take it off. Let's just chill.
And I also want to circle back on another amazing little happening that you had go on with you. And before I do that, though, I just want to remind everybody that the Waiver Wire Podcast Weekly is brought to you by No House Advantage, a props for cash site. Go to go download their app, No House Advantage, and use promo code ARMY, ARMY, get $20 match. I really like playing over there because you can prioritize which props are going on. They had it for baseball, they have for NFL, and throughout some other sports. So definitely go check out No House Advantage. Now,
little pro tip, guys. If you're doing the props at No House Advantage, which I love, and I love to play there as well, use the prop tool on DFSArmy.com. Even if you're just listening to this, by the way, and you're not a DFS Army subscriber, because, hey, that's cool. We do a lot of content. We get it. If you go to DFSArmy.com and you check out the props tool, it's called the Prop Finder. You can actually search every player and see every Vegas prop on every player. There's nothing like this. It's a really awesome tool. And you compare that to the props over at No House Advantage. So it's like a really great way. Hey, if Vegas is all over, a player to get over 40 receiving yards, and he's a minus 160 to hit it, and the prop on No House Advantage is 40 receiving yards, you want to smash that over and make it your top priority. So it's a great way to identify. Just let Vegas take the wheel. No reason to think too hard.
Yeah,
let Vegas take the wheel.
With that said, let's talk about why you came in to tune into this podcast today, which is the Waiver Wire Podcast. Now, I always usually like to start with running backs, but running backs are pretty straightforward. You know how to navigate that, and we will cover running backs. It's whichever main running back is out, you pick up the understudy, the second string running back, and you have interest now in the third running back. So that's pretty straightforward. What I think is interesting this week is when a star wide receiver goes out like Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
How do we prioritize a player like Rashard Higgins, who has been a professional wide receiver, got caught all 6 of his targets? You saw that game. You and I were texting back and forth during that game, made some acrobatic catches, and had over 100 yards. Anytime a receiver gets over 100 yards, gets the majority of the catches, I'm interested in picking him up. And given the fact that Odell Beckham wasn't producing outside of that one monster game, are you
I
making?
I think this is more relevant than anything else.
Yeah. So are you making him the
Wait.
number one waiver wire wide receiver pickup this week?
I mean, it depends who's available, right? But in your league, but of the group that should be available, yeah, Higgins is going to be the top guy because his role is not in question. Some of these other guys will come back and they'll be gone, and so it depends who's available. But outside of some brand name guy who like just happened, like a Sterling Shepard, for example.
Let me ask you that. So Sterling Shepard was available in a bunch of leagues. He was pulled off IR late. He had a pretty good game. Would you prioritize Shepard on a bad offense or Cleveland, who's a pretty good team, and Higgins?
They're not a good passing offense, Cleveland. So
But one second, they were good once Odell Beckham left the game. Baker Mayfield felt loose. Baker Mayfield went 22 of 23 once Odell Beckham left the game, and the one that he missed was a spike in the ground.
I did all of this is true, but I just want to point out it's even more interesting that I don't think Odell ever had a 100-yard game with this team in 2 seasons. If he had 1 or 2, that would be it. Rashard Higgins has already had more great games, and I don't count that trick play nonsense that happened a couple of weeks ago with the throwing and the running for a touchdown and doing some gadgets. Odell in 2 years, Rashard Higgins in 1 week did outsurpassed 2 years worth of Odell, which is really interesting. I know Higgins, he's kind of a fuck up. Maybe he's got his shit together now.
Wait, what do you mean he's a
earlier in his career that was showing up late. He was getting penalized for weird things like not studying. There were some issues going on with him.
I was unaware of that
early in his career. It might have been a couple of years ago. I don't remember enough detail where I'm going to sit here and spit out exactly what it was, but I recall there were some issues with him being a knucklehead.
All right. Well, that said, so are you picking him up over Shepard, over Brandon Ayuk? I mean, how do you prioritize those 3 guys?
I would still take Shepard before him because I think Shepard is that really solid PPR piece on a team that's going to have to be throwing. Again, they're not very good at it, but when Shepard's in that game, that Giants offense I think he's the best wide receiver on their team. So I would take Sterling Shepard ahead of assuming he's available. He shouldn't be available, but if he is,
he was only owned here. I'll check it while I'm talking to you, but he was only owned in a handful. Let's see. I'll keep going, and I'll give you the exact ownership percentage.
For me, Sterling Shepard, if he's available, is a priority over Higgins, but Higgins would be a priority over a lot of these other guys, including some of the other names that you might like. Curtis Samuel. He's on the list because he had a good week. He's not a guy
Sterling.
You want to get.
Sterling Shepard only 29% owned, so he is likely available in a lot of leagues.
If you are in a good PPR league, 12 team, he should not be there.
Yeah, but if 29%, I mean, those are the numbers. I mean, so anytime it's below 35% in Yahoo leagues, that I think is legitimate. Sometimes when you see in a lot of shows, rightfully so, they put they're 45-50% guys, but that takes into account 8 and 10 team leagues. When you see something below 35%, that means that he's available in a good amount of 12 team leagues.
I mean, Sterling would be my number 1 priority for sure. Number 2, Higgins, coming off the big game. It doesn't look like Jarvis Landry is really healthy. It looks like he's absolutely playing something.
Which we talked about in the preseason.
Yes,
anytime you have major hip surgery, that's an auto fade. Now he's been all right. It's just for fantasy. He just, he has not even been close to what you thought you were getting. I know he was discounted a little bit this year in the 7th round, but I mean, Jarvis Landry's been a top 15 wide receiver in PPR leagues every year. There's no way that, we expected him to be more of wide receiver 35 this year.
Or better. When you were drafting him, you were expecting a lot better. We definitely de-emphasized him because we don't like those players coming off that kind of an injury, and that is correct.
So on the DFS Army waiver wire sheet, I have Shepard 1, I have Ayuk 2, I have Rashard Higgins 5th.
Well,
I'll have to move.
Explain to me now. Nelson Aguilar, I understand more, but explain to me the Brandon Ayuk love. Why is he number 2?
Okay, so so he came. We've seen him play now a little bit, right? We know this guy could play football. Deebo Samuel is going to be out again for a few weeks. So Brandon Ayuk is the wide receiver 1 on that team. We know George Kittle's effectively the best pass catcher, but Brandon Ayuk is going to get 2-3 rushes a game. He's going to get those short slants. He's going to be the priority pass catcher. Now, you're going to probably have to fight a few people on the waiver wire for him, which is why I was thinking about adding I can't believe his name just slipped me, but the Kendrick Bourne to the list as well. So if you're in a little bit of a deeper league or a 12-team league and you don't want to pay for a wide receiver and you want a piece of that San Francisco game, passing game, Bourne is a live play. He's always been someone that gets involved, but I like Brandon Ayuk here. And again, you're looking for, usually when you find a wide receiver on the waiver wire, you're hoping they can be like your wide receiver 3, right? Ayuk strikes me as a player that could literally be a wide receiver 1 for the rest of the season in a certain amount of weeks. So, you're looking for 10, 12 points on these waiver wire, these wide receivers. I think Ayuk can be like an 18-point player if he just turns it on this part of the year.
Well, number one, this week, the matchup is the best matchup of the year for San Francisco. So this is the week to get him, right?
Samuel's out. So
now how long we don't know. I don't know what the deal is with Debo.
It's going to be a few weeks. It's a hamstring. This one,
this
right?
is what happens. By the way, again, Season Long says, and I, in the bold quote, we always push this. We always talk about this. These guys who are injured to the point where they're still hurt and the season's beginning, and they got to wait a few. This is the story of how this goes. Samuel finally starts to come back. The hammy goes. Those one injury leads to, I can tell you right now, I got a badminton injury. I haven't talked a lot about this. Okay. I haven't talked a lot about this. I don't like to get personal. I had a badminton injury. Okay. Now over the summer, I played competitive badminton against my kid. It crushed her. Not going to lie. Won some money, but I mean, she's 10, but I won some money. I don't mess around when I'm playing serious badminton, but it started off on the inside in the gurn and it continued, that's hurting, so you're walking a little weird. Now I got some pain on the outside, on a different spot. And I'm like, wait a minute. What the fuck is this? I was hurt over here. Now it hurts over there. I can't walk around. That stuff happens when you get in. Listen, athletes like me and Debo Samuel, and we're, different level, but similar. We learn this, all right? So they get hurt. Well, you never got a badminton injury? You're looking at me funny. Like, what? You don't play?
Oh no. I've played badminton, and it is just at our delicate age, you can certainly pull anything at any time. But I think I don't want to lose the point of what you were saying. I know you were telling this
very
story.
Important point is that one injury leads to another. So
well, and also we're gonna get as you see this season, you're gonna have so many injuries throughout the fantasy football season. Don't draft injuries. Don't walk into injuries. If there's a player that's injured, unless you're getting an extreme discount in the draft, and you weren't on Depot. You weren't.
No, you had to pay. That's right. You had to pay an
8th round pick.
And everybody's like, well, he's going to be back week 3. You always talk about this. He comes back, but you really don't want to play him his first week back.
Right, you got him in. And then if he doesn't go off, then you have to sit him in the next week, and then he goes off, and then you put him in, then he has to set, and then before you know it, it's week 8 or week 9, and you're fooling around with you can't even speculate on some other players.
Well, you're fooling around with this guy. Now he's got a hammy injury, but it's not like that wasn't predictable. You should expect that. So that was just the point of all. When these guys are hurt and the season has begun, this was the same thing a little bit with Jarvis Landry. He all right, so he's going to play. We weren't sure if he was going to be there, and now he's got a whole kind of injury marred season that's just not going the way you wanted. So avoid these guys like the plague is the word of the day. Brandon Ayuk, I am seeing now he's in such a great matchup this week.
So you're with me that he should be the number 2 or number 3 ranked wide receiver.
I'm looking
for
at this. I will take Ayuk over Higgins only because I've seen Higgins. I've actually seen Higgins for enough years to know that I don't actually really buy that he's very good. Okay. Again, I might have this thought from 2 seasons ago when it was looking like he might be the guy before OBJ, like his rookie year, and they were talking about him being a knucklehead.
So what you're saying is that if you pick up Higgins, you're more expecting him to feel like your wide receiver 3 or your flex. But even though Ayuk doesn't have like a real floor because we just don't know, you agree with me that he could be a top 15 wide receiver, an 18-point a week guy in PPR leagues.
He's the number 2 guy on his team. Like he's the default number 2 passing option because Kendrick Bourne ain't that guy, right? Kendrick Bourne, we know what he is. He's a deep threat guy.
He could end up being the number 1 passing option. Better than anyone. They like in your leagues where they give you points for blocking. George Kittle is the number 1 ranked player.
They want to keep George Kittle in as a blocker. They've been sending him out But now they don't really have a lot of running backs going on. I actually think they're going to throw more. There's not much going on at the running back position. I don't think they'll be able to do that. And so I think that offense is going to open up. But you're talking about the number one wide receiver on a team that at least this week is going to have to throw a lot. And they haven't been the stifling defense that they have been in the past, or at least the complete shutdown. So there are a lot of reasons to like Ayuk here. I'm actually going to favor him as the best pickup, even over Sterling.
Fair enough.
Now,
and again, I like that just for the upside. So,
yeah.
Those are both of those guys are 10, 12, 15% if you really want to get them. Nelson Aguilar, I mean, guy was a former first round pick. The Raiders are throwing to him. He scored a touchdown again. I think he had over 100 yards again. I know, we have this perception that he's this cast off, but while Brian Edwards is out, while there's no Tyrell Williams, of course, Darren Waller's going to get his, and rookie Henry Ruggs is a low volume. He's a 2 to 3 target a game guy. Nelson Aguilar is the guy that's getting the targets. I mean, I know I think a lot of people are going to think how your reaction just was. You don't want it. So you need you just lost Odell Beckham. You just, you have Terry McLaurin on bye. You have Will Fuller on bye. You're desperate. I think he could be had for a $5-7 bid, and that's a very reasonable plug and play for the week.
One of the great things I love about the waiver wire show and season long in general is just, I was saying this before, but how it ties into DFS. These guys are all going to be DFS like sleeper plays this week. Every one of these names, you're going to play Aguilar this week, maybe. Yeah, you might have to play Aguilar like this week. You know what I'm saying? Like Ayuk is definitely a play this week, especially on FanDuel. DraftKings, they screw us with the price,
right? The
salary hike.
But in your season long league, again, the DFS is the hardest game I think out there because it's the competition. The field is huge. You have the whole player pool to pick from, but as your roots come from the season long game, as everyone's does, that sometimes that's true. People that have been playing fantasy for 25 years like you have, and sometimes you just don't have the options. And a lot of people will just, that have been playing fantasy now, because everyone knows what they're doing for the most part. It's just good to kind of hash it out. I think a lot of people are going to pass on Aguilar, just thinking it was an aberration game where they need him. I mean, this was a former first round pick. This is a first round pedigreed player. He hasn't panned out, but sometimes those guys, I mean, we have seen him performance in. So
one thing I will say for Aguilar and for his benefit is they don't have anyone else. That's the bigger part. Like Darren Waller, great. You have Henry Ruggs, who has a lot of explosiveness, but hasn't really put it together as a volume wide receiver as of yet. He seems to be right now a big play kind of gadget guy. And so you've got this guy in Aguilar who got 9 targets last week in a pace up matchup for them. He's actually had a few big play, sort of fluky plays more than anything else the last few weeks. So like Aguilar's been producing, but he's been producing on low volume, like 2 targets, 1 big catch, 59-yard touchdown, 4 targets. So he's had a couple of okay games for like basically min salary. But now with Brian Edwards seemingly either fading away or
he hasn't played. He's been hurt.
Yeah, he's kind of fading away is what I'm saying. He's been hurt and, the season's passing along and it's not the Brian Edwards year. This guy is taking over as like, a serious target. And you're not seeing anything from Hunter Renfrow.
This is what I said earlier, and I'm going to stick by this. Anytime you see a guy that gets 9 targets in a game and he has over 100 yards, he's a pickup. Okay. And now, of course, it could just be one game, but given the pedigree, given the usage, and given the production the week before, I want to play him this week and see if it can continue. Okay, some of the other guys we have in there, I know I have Denzel Mims ranked a little bit higher than the consensus. I'm going to tick him down a little bit. His first game out was pretty good. I think a lot of people are going to think, hey, the Jets stink, and I don't want anything to do with that passing game, but he caught 4 passes. He led the team in yards and receptions. I know Jamison Crowder was out. It was a good debut by Denzel Mims. He was one of the surprise pre-draft process players that rose up draft boards. Hey, now we're getting to see him. I think he could be had.
Draft Nick play, but you know what? Brashard Perriman hurt again.
Right. Crowder
does not look good. So
he's a very good like $0, $1 pickup.
Yeah, don't go crazy with that. It's still the Jets, and they stink, and they're actually, this is not a great matchup against KC. They're a very, very good pass defense, but
yeah, but it's it's a rookie. We don't know. And, you're desperate for a player. You have a little bit room. That's why we don't carry Deebo Samuel. That's why we don't draft injured players, because we want to cycle that just in case somebody hits. We want to have that end of the bench be players that we can pick up and cut easily to keep speculating. Just flying.
These guys are startable in emergency.
Yes,
it's like I have leagues that are so deep that I might have to start Denzel Mims.
Yeah, just zipping through some of the other wide receivers, then we'll move on to the running back position, because we want to give you a concise podcast here. So when you're listening in the car the way to work, or if you're listening while you're working out, you're making your pickups on your phone while you're listening to this. Jalen Guyton, the rookie in the Chargers with Justin Herbert there, he's a given to not a given. Sorry, he is a live play to score a long touchdown any given week. He is a speedster. Curtis Samuel had the rushing touchdown last week. I like that. Both of the New Orleans receivers, the rookie Callaway and Deontay Harris himself, both produce, again, worth an ad in a depleted market. And our guy from the preseason, Geek, Donovan, the People's Champ Jones, with an amazing toe-tapping catch to win the game last week.
Couldn't believe it.
We were on him early. He's on all of our dynasty rosters. He was a 6th-round draft pick by the Cleveland Browns, and his draft stock fell because his college production. Going back, I just want to give you a little history on DPJ. He was the #1 high school recruit in 2017. And what happened was, like, Jerry Jeudy was the #2 recruit, and I forget, like, some other major guy that came out was #3. And Donovan Peoples-Jones just he had about half the production of those guys. And the reason is, his proponents point to the fact that he just had a horrible QB in Michigan. But his skills were there. Look what happens when he got halfway decent quarterbacking. This was his first game in the pros. Give him an NFL level quarterback, even though we don't love Baker Mayfield. We do acknowledge he's an NFL, at least a little bit below league average QB. The guy produced. So I think that he, again, makes for a perfect add to the end of your bench. If you're you can pick him up after waivers runs.
This may be the sneaky better play than Rashard Higgins. I'm telling you, Higgins is a
So you're saying that's a trap? Higgins is a trap.
It's just he's been around for a little bit longer than I'm comfortable with.
I like Higgins. I think he's a good player. I actually just sold him in a dynasty league for a 2nd-round pick, more or less.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a great sell.
Yeah, it was to the Odell owner, who is literally on his way to a championship and just it's a super deep league, 14 team, needs somebody. He knows he overpaid, but at the same time, he knows he's going to get production for the rest of the year. All right, running backs, Geek. So on top of the DFS Army waiver wire sheet, which if you want to become a VIP member, just go to dfsarmy.com, use promo code SAYS or Geek, and you'll go over there, and not only will you get access to all the coaches, you'll have all the season and for the DFS sheets, and we'll go over at the end all that great value. But that is where I house the DFS Army waiver wire sheet. And on top of that sheet, I have a push 2 hands in, push all your chips in, even though he's on a bye, to Chase Edmonds. Even though he's on a bye and you can't use him this week, do you agree with the Drake injury that Chase Edmonds you must have him? He is a great play for at least the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't be available in your league, but if he is, Chase Edmonds also happens to be clearly better of a player than Kenyon Drake at this point right now.
You're right about Edmonds, though. He's 64% owned.
Yeah, he's owned in your league, so you're probably not getting him. And if you're in a league that he's available, you're in like a 10-man, 10-team bullshit league anyway.
Or somebody, someone could have dropped him when he did nothing after the big Drake game.
You're in a bullshit league. Like, actually, what I want you to do is look on your waiver wire, and if Chase Edmonds is available, I want you to reevaluate this league that you're in. Get in a real fucking league. You shouldn't be in that league. Actually, you should, because you're robbing people. If you're listening to this and Chase Edmonds is available, that means you're robbing people in their league of your money. And actually, I respect that. Stay in that league. Take some of
the other guys. I want you to give me your feedback. Carlos Hyde, Seattle. I have him as a 20%er. It looks like Chris Carson might miss a game. We won't know until a little bit later in the week. But how confident are you with Carlos Hyde? As let's say you're one of these.
Hyde's questionable. He might not play. Got a hammy injury.
Okay, so then are we looking at the rookie DJ Dallas? Are we looking at Travis Homer? Where do we go if we can't get Carlos Hyde?
Yeah, I want to try to get DJ Dallas in there just in case. This is just a 1 week pickup probably, but in case Hyde doesn't play, I would not spend much on it because we don't know, which is beautiful. But you could probably do a 1 or 2% bid, like a couple dollars. Try to get DJ Dallas in there just in case. But yeah, it looks like Hyde is not a lock to play this week. He's got the hammy.
And then how about Homer? Do you think
Homer's knee contusion? He's got issues. DJ Dallas might be the only healthy guy.
Interesting.
So you want to get him.
He's a little bit of an undersized back too. So I wonder if they bring up somebody from their practice squad to maybe a veteran.
I think there are better plays here that we can target.
Okay, so we're not going to have Hyde there. How do you prioritize? Would Gallman, P. Ryan, one of those guys be interesting to you?
Gallman is the most exciting piece for like longer component of the season. The reason is because I've seen with my own eyes Gallman produce as an NFL running back. He's clearly, and I will sing this to the clouds or whatever. He is a better player than Devonta Freeman straight up, easily.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked better in that game. He just looked like he had a little bit more wiggle to him.
He had a little looked better. He looked like he breathed some. Freeman is a washed up player.
By the way, I just want to tangent for a second and come back. How much better did Le'Veon Bell looked 5 years younger in that Kansas City uniform, right?
Wouldn't you? I mean, you're
purgatory.
Playing for the Jets is misery.
Yeah. No, he looked good. He looked good.
To die. You know how bad the fucking Jets are? They're so bad that Trevor Lawrence is like, I might go back to college one more year.
No,
he's going to pass up, and wisely, and he'll be doing the right thing. I would never tell anybody pass up $50 million, and he's going to actually be doing the right thing because $50 million and a ruined career with the Jets versus take your shot at zero, but because you get injured, but then $50 million with a real franchise or better, or maybe the Jets again because they're that bad they might be there again.
Our guy Sam in the chat just asked a quick question about kickers, Prater, Blankenship, or Carlson. For me, Blankenship is money in the bank. That guy, he does it every week. He's on a good team, so don't overthink it. Just go Blankenship. It is kickers. I do, it is interesting. I know some people are still playing with kickers. In fact, more leagues are bringing kickers back that didn't have them before. But yeah, Blankenship for there. All right. So
let me ask you another question about a player on the list here. Yeah. What do we have for Tevin Coleman's return? Because you got Jermichael Hasty and Tevin Coleman as possible ads. Obviously, Wilson fucking crushed it and then gets himself hurt at the end of the game.
At least he had the decency to get the production first, unlike Odell. Right, unlike Odell, who got hurt and gave you a 0. So at least Wilson did the right thing by his fantasy owners.
Oh, by the 0.08% of people who rostered him, and that's a milli maker winning move in DFS this past week if you rostered him.
Yeah, but I think both. I think both Hasty and Tevin Coleman are certainly ads. Hasty would be the priority. I mean, we saw last week that Jerick McKinnon got almost nothing. He got a 0, and Coach Shanahan said that he was just giving him a rest week. So I don't know if that means McKinnon's going to be back involved this week. That is one of those things you cannot play any of those guys besides Hasty with confidence. And Hasty, you're hoping to get 10 fantasy points out of him. How about LaMichael P. Ryan? We were talking about Bell. You think P. Ryan? I mean, I was not overly impressed with his tape in the preseason when I was watching it, but he didn't look too bad in his debut. He wasn't really his debut, but he got 10, 13 touches. Is he somebody that, there's a lot of teams that are just totally, have no running back this week. I mean, he's obviously any guy
you absolutely want to grab. If you don't have, I have some team, I got nothing, right? Running backs were all hurt. Christian McCaffrey was on there and Drake was there and Eckler. Like my whole fucking preseason excitement for Drake and Eckler has turned into a nightmare. And so, yeah, I mean, LaMichael P. Ryan.
How much?
What are the Jets going to do? Keep rolling out a 38-year-old Frank Gore? They're going to let this guy play a little bit. I think he's going to get the passing game work. It's kind of gross, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, so he's a 15%er for sure. I mean, obviously adjust the to the flavor of your league, these prices and these bid suggestions I get. Another one you could add if you have space at the end of the bench and you're in one of these deep leagues. He's on a bye, but you always want to say who's one injury away. I have Eno Benjamin on there. I know there's a JoJo. I forget the guy's name. JoJo Ward. He is another one of those rookies on Arizona that could be added. I mean, again, they're on a bye. It's just a speculative ad. Let's move over to the tight ends. Tight end this week is pretty interesting. If Irv Smith was dropped, I don't have him on our tight end list, but I would make him. He has 2 weeks in a row of rock solid production where he's catching 4 or 5 passes for 50+ yards. At your tight end, you're happy about that. But Logan Thomas, Harrison Bryant, who I started last week in a desperation move. That's
Johnny Lawrence.
Yes.
Johnny Lawrence. Cobra Kai never die.
There you go. There you go. Isn't it great though? Like when you start the scrub and you get like big production out of them. That's like, and then Richard Rodgers. You talked about Richard Rodgers. He's the only game in town right now. Produced for you last week, and you know what? You talk a little bit about Richard Rodgers. Then I want to come back and talk about the last guy on my list.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dick Rodgers. He's on a team that the Eagles. For those who don't know, he's on a team that wants to throw to the tight end. We've seen now. Godart's going to be back in a week or two. Don't spend too much on this dude.
Now, this is like a one. You're looking at him as like a 1 or 2 week fill in.
Yeah, it's a $1, $0 bid. Just grab him if you can get him. You could start him literally this week. That's what's nice about it. You get Dick Rodgers in there. He's playing for you this week. He's the starter on your team, and you're happy, and it's fine.
If you're desperate for tight end, if you're one of these teams that just doesn't have a tight end this week, or you just have no confidence in the one you have, would you go like $7 or $8 just to get to patch the week over?
How much?
Like, $6 or $7 or $8, or is that just?
I don't like to spend that kind of. At that point I'll take the next guy. So like if I have to spend $7 or $8, I actually probably wouldn't, because I'd probably just take the next guy. But there'll be another guy on the list. Like let's look at this list. Like
Alberto Alcabuena
and Bryant will be available, and Logan Thomas might be there, so you can just grab one of these guys. Anthony Ferkser. I always like Ferkser.
Yeah,
that's my go-to.
I mean, he's not the starter right now, but the last. No. So we talked about Logan Thomas, Harrison Bryant. Absolutely.
Hey, I want to ask you about something else, because we're talking about tight ends. Why want to tell me about this guy Purdue and his fucking 3 touchdown performance? Like what? Why didn't I know about him?
Donald Parham was, yeah.
Don Parham.
He came over. I mean, he's like a folk hero from like either like the AFL or XFL or something like that. He's again, it's like we saw Virgil Green score a touchdown. One of those.
I'm over here like a donkey playing fucking Hunter Henry, like a big loser scrub that doesn't know better, and Don Pardo over here, fucking putting up 3 touchdowns in a game. Like, who the hell's this guy?
I think that's the definition of a fluke. I know he has his fans, pardon, but I would not expect a repeat performance of that. But a tight end, I think, is going to slip by on all your waiver wires that I think you could be had for, an absolute, just to pick him up as a first come, first serve, is Alberto Cowadenbaum on Denver.
Dude, your pronunciation of that name was awesome. Did you practice that? There's no way I was going to say it that way.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I've written about Alberto quite a few times over the last few weeks, so I've had to learn his name. And let me just give you the background, Geek. I'm going to get you more interested.
Aquawegabaum.
I
don't even think you're saying right. I mean, it does not sound that's not how it's spelled. I mean, Aquawenabaum.
If somebody comes in and just like tuned into the podcast while we were doing that, they would probably think it was like a podcast from like another country.
Aquawenabaum.
Yeah. Yeah. But Alberto, super athlete. He was Drew Lock's college teammate at Missouri, and he was his most targeted receiver in the end zone. So Alberto, gets drafted in, I think, the 4th or 5th round of the real NFL draft. A lot of people thought he was the best tight end in this class, and he was underdrafted. Not often you hear underdrafted. So what happens? Noah Fant gets hurt. Alberto, week 6, gets 6 targets, 4 of them in the end zone. Okay. They had a little trouble, converting there because it was Alberto's first game of real action. So what happens? Okay, it's a fluke. Keep an eye on Alberto. Week 7, Noah Fant plays. What happens? Alberto ties the team in lead of targets, has 7 targets, catches all 7 of them, Geek. That's
Really
even with Noah Fant back, catches all 7 of 7 targets. Alberto. And again,
spell it.
that
Aguilar. All right, 2,800 on DraftKings this week. Pretty good matchup against the Chargers.
Tim Patrick out with an injury, likely. No Courtland Sutton, obviously.
Of course, I just traded for Tim Patrick in a dynasty league, so he's out.
Yeah.
An emergency trade. He's gone.
I mean, he's dinged up at best. Alberto, given his connection with quarterback Drew Lock, and not just that he walked in the same practice facility as him, this was his most targeted receiver in college. This was the guy that he looked to every time they were down in the red zone. Alberto is an absolute, you can get him for free. He's 0% owned in leagues. I think he might be 0.1% this week because we talked about him a little bit last week on the solo pod. But I think that this is a player that I would prefer him over some of the options given all those data points that we just talked about.
I love it. I think this is maybe one of the, I look at these plays for sneakiness for DFS, and I'm always looking for that cheap tight end that can produce. And 7 targets, 6 targets the week before,
and 4 of them were in the end zone, by the way, the week before. Not the red zone, the end zone.
Yeah, that's pretty sexy, man. I think I love this play, man. You've talked me into it. I did not know who the hell that was when I looked at your waiver wire list. That's the beauty of doing this. I had no idea. I'm like, who the hell is Alberto? Who the fuck is this guy? I can't even say his name.
And by the way, he's an athletic freak. Like, he's one of these guys. I have to look at his measurables. I'm not going to do it while we're here, but he's like 6'5", but runs like a 4.4.
Aquabuenobam. Aquabuenobam.
If anybody wants, so let's see, Don wrote, Denver loves tight end in division games. All right, so that's another good data point right there. And if anybody wants to submit a video pronouncing Alberto's name their way that it should be done, Alcowenobam, feel free to tweet that at the F Football Geek. He loves those. All right. Any streamer defenses this week that you want to tell the people about?
So just taking a look across the sphere, I don't know if these are. It's like to say streamer, right? Obviously, if you could get Kansas City against the Jets, but you probably have Kansas City as a defense. Love the Rams against Miami, but again, they're probably not available.
Right. Well, here's a good tip for you, everyone. Okay, I'm going to give you some actionable tips. So obviously, we know anyone playing Jacksonville, anyone playing the Giants, anyone playing the Jets, we want to pick up. But what you need to do is look 2 weeks ahead. Okay, go sort by by opponent in your software and look at week 9. So right now, you're going to look at any of those softer opponents for week 9, and you have the roster space. If you're holding an injured player or a low upside player, a Larry Fitzgerald type, although he did have a pretty good week last week, you want to roster that. It's time to forget about depth and start, because we need wins. If you're 4-3, you need a win this week. If you're 3-4, you absolutely need a win this week. So you want to start looking a week or 2 ahead, figuring out who the softer opponents are, and rostering those defenses now before you have to spend money on them in FAAB.
You know what? I'm trying to think of a defense that's available in your league that might be playable this week. And most aren't. I don't know if could you say the Titans going up against the Bengals here, rookie quarterback situation? Titans probably aren't owned. That might be one. Another one I might look at is
you're right about that. The Titans they're widely available.
Yeah, like Titans kind of feel like, I like to target rookie quarterback. It's not to say that I think Joe Burrow's not going to have a good game. I don't think that matters. But rookies do throw interceptions, and so you could get a nice little game out of the Titans there in a tough spot. Are the Packers available in most leagues? Because if they're not, their defense is really good, and they're at home against the Vikings. The Vikings have just not been that good offensively. I wouldn't mind playing them in this spot if I had to. Where are the Eagles? They're playing on Monday night, Sunday. I'm not looking at the whole list here. I'm looking at the main slate, but I think the Eagles do have a game, and I usually like the
Eagles against Dallas. Yeah, and Dallas.
Yeah, love Eagles against. That would be my top choice.
And what is it called? The Cowboys are starting. What was the guy from Godfather? Ben Fanucci.
Ben Fanucci.
The guy from the Godfather was Don Fanucci.
Don Fanucci. I was Fanucci. Donnie Bag of Donuts Fanucci is what I called him on the fucking podcast or whenever I was talking about him. So yeah, I mean, Play the Eagles. I wish they were on the main slate for DFS to be priced up.
Yeah.
Play the Eagles defense this week if you can. I think I have them in a few leagues.
All right, Geek. We gave the Waiver Wire podcast. We like to keep it tight. We gave you a little bit of actionable pickups. We want you to go there, tweet at us, let us know how you're doing in your leagues. If any of these players you pick up, if you can put them in your, and as always, we'd love to answer your start sits. Come over to DFS Army Slack chat.
Let me throw a few things in there here because I do always love to talk about this stuff. Number one, you've got Season Long Says in a channel answering your sit start questions. Are you kidding?
24/7, by the way. 11 o'clock at night, I'm sitting there answering these damn things.
Like you don't know who to start. You want somebody to help you. Should I start Higgins? Should I start Marquez Callaway? Season Long Says, what should I do? My man's got an answer for you, right? That's just one thing. This weekend alone in DFS Army, you guys got to check out DFS Army if you're into DFS. Obviously, most of you guys are watching this already subscribers. That's awesome. But for those of you who aren't, I mean, we're coming off a weekend where I took down 30K myself.
That was unbelievable, by the way.
$240,000 winner on the Monday Night Showdown.
You're going to talk about that on Wednesday in detail, right? Because I want to hear the story about the stat correction, the whole thing.
Tune in tomorrow for Geeks Vegas Lines, where we go into the stat correction from hell or from heaven, depending on who you ask. And we're going to play the video of the stat of the play itself, and you're going to decide, was this a designed run or was this a sack? Because fucking A, it's close. Like, I don't know. I want to hear it. But this was $1 million stat correction. You got to see this. It's unbelievable. Nothing ever happened like this before. I've never seen anything like it. It's rare that we even get a stat correction in NFL after the game ends. And something this intense, haven't seen it before. It's amazing. So we'll talk about that on Geeks Vegas Lines tomorrow. Obviously on this channel, like and subscribe to all that shit. And if you're not a DFS Army subscriber, we had our best weekend probably ever this past weekend. Never nailed more plays. I got people on Lockett over Metcalf, which worked out like beyond all wildest dreams. I got everybody onto Deontay Johnson over Traquan Smith, which worked out beyond our wildest dreams. It rarely works out that well. So it was an incredible week. You gotta get in there and see what you don't know. If you're playing DFS and you're not kind of learning the strategy of how to construct lineups, how to attack different contests, you're just doing it wrong. And it's no fault of your own that you're losing money. It's just you don't know what you're doing, and that's fine. We have all of this figured out. We've got videos. We've got basic training to show you the correct approaches for DFS and to hopefully turn you. Now, you're not going to win $247,000. G-Money, that's not going to happen for everybody. It's not going to happen for most people. But what might happen is you might stop losing money all the time.
This is how I described it to someone, Geek. You're going to stop feeling like you're guessing, and you're going to feel like you're actually understanding the moves you're making. You're going to start playing chess instead of checkers. You're going to start seeing the moves happen before they happen. You're going to learn process, which is then you're going to use your own judgment. So that's what I told, how I described it to my friends that signed up.
I love
you're learning
friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're learning process. You're understanding why things happen and how we project them.
A big thing that I like to talk about is why you're not making money doing this. Like there's an absolute reason why 84% of people who play DFS cannot do it profitably. And it's not because they're so bad at picking players. It has a lot more to do with just not understanding how to attack different contest types.
Right. It's the little things. You're doing all the big things probably correct.
Maybe correct, maybe not. But you're in the wrong contest, so you never had a chance.
Well, that's a little thing. That's a little thing.
It's just things that we can clean up. So check out dfsarmy.com. We'll help you out. We got a chat. Everybody's in there helping one another, cheering one another on. So that's awesome. And we love season-long football. So here we are, crushing our season-long leagues this year. Unless if you listen to me on Drake, then you're probably not so happy. But you know what? Shit happens.
Do me a favor also. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, you could always tweet at me. At Alan Seslowsky, AlanSeslowsky.
No one's going to tweet at you. They can't.
I put it up on the screen at FFootballGeek for him over there. Yeah. Follow us at DFS Army on Twitter. Also, come over to Instagram. Alan Fantasy Football. I'm tweeting out some good content every day for DFS Army, in addition to the DFS Army homepage there on Instagram. Anything else, Geek, before we wrap it up?
Check me out on TikTok. I don't do fantasy football content there.
Do you have a TikTok account?
But I only do wiggle dicking on there.
Yeah, no, I have my TikTok up there too now. Which
I have like the kids. I'm like, Carol Baskin, can it, like I do the dances to that shit. It's awesome. You want to
And
see that.
And also make sure you check out our generous sponsor, No House Advantage. They're a props for cash site. Prop betting is literally the next phase of gambling across all sports. It's going to be the basis for mainstream gambling. So if you like prop betting, props for cash, use deposit code ARMY. Download No House Advantage on any app store, or if you want to go to their site, play it. Deposit code ARMY, $20 match. All right, Geek. Until next time, we'll see you back next week for the Bold Call Waiver Wire podcast.
All right.